Hey old man, go fetch some coffee, will ya?
Just like always, Mike told me to grab some coffee. Being his subordinate, all I could do was nod. Got it. If I keep staying silent and just do what I'm told, I bet he'll get even more carried away and his demands will escalate. I was trying to think of some kind of strategy. As I pondered, dragging my feet towards the vending machine outside, I noticed a black Mercedes. It was unusual to see such a luxury car in such a remote place, and as I was looking at it, suddenly the car window started to roll down. Oh no, I've stared too much. I braced myself, thinking the driver might be furious, but the face that appeared was familiar. It was Tyler, the president of a company I had dealt with before. Seeing me, Tyler tried to force a smile, but he was visibly shaking. It's understandable why he's scared. Because I know a certain secret about Tyler. At that moment, something clicked in my head. My name is Kevin Asher, 46 years old. Currently, I work in sales at a tech company. Looking back, I feel like I've always been lucky since my childhood. My family was well off, and I managed to graduate top of my class from Harvard. But I haven't told my company about this fact. If I did, it would only set high expectations and draw unwanted attention. Being in the spotlight is the last thing I want. This belief stemmed from the disappearance of my father. My father was brilliant. With his skillful speaking and flexible thinking, he contributed to the company and climbed up to an executive position. Earning for the family, my father was everything I aspired to be. That belief shattered when a certain incident occurred, and my world started to fall apart. My father was arrested for embezzling company funds. The wealth we lived in was due to the money my father had stolen. The poor man was sentenced to pay a huge sum in damages and ended up divorcing my mother. As a child, I couldn't grasp the situation and had no choice but to follow my mother. Afterward, my father disappeared without a trace and remains missing to this day. As I grew up, I came to understand the situation, but the shock of losing my admiration for my father was immense. Since then, I've been trying my best to keep a low profile. The company I joined after graduating from college wasn't well known or prestigious, but it was doing well. Working for a household name wouldn't benefit me, so a company of this size was just right. For 20 years, I've continued to play the part of the incompetent to avoid any chance of promotion. However, I've been having trouble lately with a younger female colleague named Susan, who keeps pestering me. It's quite a nuisance for me.
Kevin, slacking off again. Didn't I tell you to get that report done by yesterday?
Susan, a diligent colleague, keeps dumping work on me. For someone like me, who's not interested in climbing the corporate ladder, work is just a task. Why don't you compile it yourself?
Because it looks better when you do it.
Whether she's naturally like this or a born charmer, her manner, free of any malice, is somehow compelling, and I find myself complying with her requests. According to Susan, having an older brother makes it easier for her to interact with me. Having avoided personal connections for so long, I was starting to think this kind of relationship wasn't so bad when I heard that another colleague of the same age as her was coming. And to my surprise, this time it was going to be my boss. But I figured I'd just keep on as before. However, the new department head turned out to be the worst kind of person you could imagine. His name was Mike, the director. The sales department was expected to buzz with energy with the arrival of a director who was a whole generation younger than me. Contrary to that expectation, Mike said this:
Don't cling to the company forever. If you're aware that you're employed, show some results. You've had it easy up till now, but things are going to change. Now that I'm here, I expect the sales department's performance to double.
Right off the bat, we were baptized by fire. Mike prides himself on climbing the ranks to become a director by being recognized for his contributions, and he seems to dislike employees who don't make an effort. Indeed, I haven't been trying, so I can't really argue with that. But it's different for the other employees. Some are struggling to produce results despite their efforts. Isn't it cruel to ignore such individuals and lump everyone together? From then on, it was decided that anyone with poor sales performance would be called by the director to reflect and set goals for the next time. With plenty to do from the morning, this added hassle was hardly welcome, especially for someone like me, who became his primary target.
Old man, do you understand you're the least effortful here? Doesn't it burn you up to be outdone by someone younger? I'd be too ashamed to live if I were you.
Yeah, I'm well aware, thanks. Age doesn't really matter. In a company, those with positions have authority, so it might be necessary to issue commands as part of the job. I understand that much. However, being looked down upon by someone younger in this formal manner is something I can't stay calm about internally. Mike's words struck a chord, and I could feel the tension in my temples. I'm getting irritated. Even if I can understand it on a superficial level, instinctively, I think it's something that shouldn't be tolerated.
If you can do your job, at least be useful by running errands for me.
I desperately tried to suppress a look of irritation from showing on my face. Even though we had just met, I thought that I would never understand him in this lifetime. Someone so full of pride would never listen to what others have to say. Mike must have enjoyed a smooth sailing life so far, graduating from a prestigious university and climbing up to the director position in the company based on his achievements. No one can reprimand someone who's on such a coveted career path. So, I had no choice but to follow Mike's orders. Since then, I seem to have become so worthless in the office that I've been made to prepare coffee for the director every morning. What authority does he have to ask a subordinate to fetch drinks? Even if it's meant as harassment or a form of training, this task is nothing but an abuse of power. I thought about reporting him to HR for harassment, but decided against it because I didn't want to worsen my position. Anyway, if Mike is as ambitious as he seems, he'll probably be transferred soon enough. Just a little patience, and all my problems will be solved. However, defying my expectations, Mike began to escalate his behavior. Getting cocky, Mike started messing with not just me, but Susan as well.
Susan, why don't you and I go visit our clients together next time? It'll be more fun if it's just the two of us.
Mike seems to want to be alone with Susan a lot, as he keeps pestering her, and it makes me uncomfortable just watching. Mike seems confident in himself, but frankly, he's unpopular with both men and women, making his social circle within the company practically non-existent. Going out for drinks, he would endlessly brag, and when he drank too much to return home by himself, he'd expect to be carried home. Until recently, rumors circulated in the office about how he'd forget the next day and make a fuss about being left behind.
It was relentless today, too. I can't handle being bothered anymore.
I'm made to buy coffee every morning and even get lectured. It's just not fair. I was harboring the same frustrations towards Mike. Unusually finding common ground, we ended up talking for a while. The conversation became lively and enjoyable, but Mike had seen us. The next day, Susan's seat was moved to another department. Noticing something odd from the morning, Mike came at me with obvious jealousy in his tone.
You're the worst. I know you've been preying on a younger woman. That's why I changed Susan's seat. An old man like you is an eyesore.
I was stunned. The adult in front of me had succumbed to his jealousy, going so far as to arbitrarily change a subordinate's department. Above all, I felt an inexplicable anger rising within me, even though I should have been disgusted. Perhaps, having never paid much attention to others, I couldn't accept being separated from Susan.
Hey old man, go buy some coffee, will ya?
As usual, Mike directed me to run an errand. Being his subordinate, all I could do was nod in agreement. Understood. If I keep staying silent and just do what I'm told, I bet he'll get even more carried away and his demands will escalate. I was pondering what I could do about the situation. While lost in thought, dragging my feet towards the vending machine outside, a black Mercedes caught my eye. Thinking it was rare to see such a luxury car in such a secluded place, I found myself staring when suddenly the car window began to roll down. Oh no, I've stared too much. I braced myself, thinking the driver might be furious, but the face that appeared was someone I recognized.
You all.
It was Tyler, a client CEO I had dealt with before. Seeing me, Tyler tried to force a smile, but he was visibly shaking. It's understandable why he'd be scared, because I knew a certain secret about Tyler. At that moment, an idea flashed through my mind. Tyler, long time no see. Do you have a meeting today? When I spoke to him, Tyler flinched for a moment.
Yes. I was hoping to discuss a future order with them.
Trying to maintain his composure, the sweat pouring down like a waterfall was proof of his nervousness. Seeing his clear agitation, I thought negotiating with Tyler was possible. What a coincidence. I actually had something I wanted to ask you, too. Could you spare a moment to listen? As I took steps closer to the black Mercedes, Tyler's agitation became even more apparent. The car seemed to shake from his trembling. To Tyler, I probably looked like a demon. Shortly after, my strategy to secure a promise from Tyler was a success within a brief period. Looking forward to tomorrow, I turned back towards the company. The next day, when I arrived at work, the office was enveloped in a tumultuous atmosphere. It was because someone from HR had announced that a serious misconduct had been uncovered. Currently, the investigation was ongoing, and the person believed to be responsible was being questioned. I knew who it was. I could feel my mouth involuntarily curling into a smirk. Mike, who had spent all this time belittling his elders, could never have imagined his actions would be so easily exposed. Internally, I was gloating, yet outwardly, I remained composed. Though the company didn't disclose the details of the misconduct, stating it was strictly confidential, there was talk of conducting one-on-one interviews with everyone, so we continued our work while waiting for our turn. By the time lunch had passed, I was called in. With a mix of excitement and nerves, I headed to the president's office. There, I found the president, George, the secretary, and Mike, 3 people waiting. I was secretly thrilled at the start of what I anticipated to be a show from hell. As I was about to sit next to Mike, catching sight of his face almost made me burst out laughing. Seeing Mike drenched in sweat gave away the severity of his situation. Just looking at her expression, it was clear being in deep trouble. The secretary briefly explained the misconduct involved. An issue of collusion between Mike and a specific company. Mike had made a secret agreement with a specific client, passing on highly confidential information from within the company and its affiliates. This situation came to light because another client filed a complaint about this information leak.
Let's stop this, George. It's pointless to continue. You won't find any evidence by questioning every employee. I would never sell information.
Mike interrupted the secretary's explanation, but George's face remained grim. According to the secretary, the complaining client was small but involved in tabloid publishing and website operation. They were essentially blackmailing us, suggesting they could publish the scandal in their tabloid. In today's world, even a minor scandal can spread like wildfire once it hits the internet. George isn't familiar with social media, and his ignorance only fueled his fears. Even minor incidents can turn into societal issues once they are picked up by TV or social media. Maybe due to the unknown fear, George seemed more on edge than usual.
Seriously, with no evidence, they're just making things up. Let them show what they've got. Anyway, questioning Kevin of old man here is pointless. He knows nothing.
Mike muttered insults about the accusing company and then dismissed me as an old man who knew nothing and should be sent back. That attitude really got to me. I realized he needed it for a lesson. Evidence. I have it right here. The date is on this memory stick. I placed the data stick on the lavish desk in the center of the room. In that instant, the room froze, and Mike's face, previously irritable, turned pale rapidly. Seeing his reaction almost made me burst out laughing again. His expression changed as if he were a shape-shifting specter. There's no toy more entertaining than this.
There's no way that's possible. There can't be any record of my communications with a client.
Mike exclaimed, desperately trying to deny the contents of my USB. However, this very reaction sealed his fate. Sure, can't it be? What are you misunderstanding? I merely said there was data on it. Mike, does it mean you've been communicating in a way that leaves data behind? I had lied to trap Mike. The data stick was just a decoy. Simple-minded Mike took the bait as expected, jeopardizing his position with his reaction. George didn't miss Mike's turmoil.
Mike, if you continue to withhold the truth, we'll have no choice but to involve the police. If there's a possibility that the data exists, we'll have to search your home.
It was a clear threat. George was already intent on cornering Mike. Unable to confront the president's threat, Mike bit his upper lip in frustration.
An old man. A mere dim-witted old man has set me up.
Mike's frustration seemed to evolve into hatred. It looked like he might lash out at any moment, with his anger directed at me. However, George started to speak, preventing any foolish actions.
You've been belittling the employee in front of you, but he's the smartest in this company. It's quite something to say old man to an employee you graduated top of their class from Harvard.
My secret was mercilessly revealed. I had kept my achievements hidden, but during the final interview, I accidentally let it slip to George alone about the top graduate from Harvard.
Harvard top scorer. This old guy. Impossible.
Mike felt like there was someone superior to him nearby, pushing him even harder. He collapsed into his chair, drained of strength. Feeling pity for him, I couldn't help but offer some encouragement. Mike, pull yourself together. You're still young. You can start over. I believe in you. I patted Mike's shoulder and offered my support, but he didn't respond. If anything, he seemed to have turned even paler than before. He was probably overwhelmed by frustration, his gaze fixed on the void.
Ironically, Mike, if it weren't for your arrogance, you could have been more successful. But now, that chance is gone. You've drawn too much attention to yourself.
Drawing too much attention. I found myself nodding in agreement. If only he knew how to interact with his elders, none of this would have happened. Youth is wonderful, but its vigor isn't flawless. Anyone can stumble or be stopped if they run too wild. My father was the same. That's why I've been careful not to follow in his footsteps.
Are you listening, Mike? Whether you're conscious or not, we need to pursue the cause right now.
The president pressed for the truth again, but Mike remained catatonic, unresponsive. Eventually, with no progress in the discussion, it was decided to adjourn temporarily. Subsequent investigations were conducted, and evidence of Mike's backdoor dealings was securely obtained. The amount Mike had gained from these dealings was said to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Such a large-scale information leak was unprecedented, and George intended to sue Mike.
There might be other cases he's involved in. We'll cooperate with the police and work on restoring trust. But about the client who reported this, how did they find out? Does information naturally gather to places dealing with tabloids and such?
George was questioning the exclusive information network of the client. In fact, I was the one who leaked Mike's misconduct. On the day I re-encountered with Tyler, I came up with the idea to kick Mike out. Tyler couldn't defy me. Once, under the guise of his company handling a weekly tabloid, Tyler had tried to get me, a salesperson, to manage a blog for him at a bargain price. Thinking, what could a mere tabloid do? I instead investigated Tyler's company and reported their illegal labor practices to the Labor Standards Bureau. When I falsely claimed to have more evidence, Tyler became docile. Ever since, he trembles with nervousness whenever he encounters me.
Kevin, I'll continue to favor you in the future.
After reporting Mike's misconduct to the company, Tyler called me. Honestly, I hadn't anticipated things to go this smoothly, but seeing my nemesis's amusing face made me feel refreshed. With Mike gone, peace returned to the sales department. Since Mike had been forcing his unreasonable demands, my colleagues are now freely excelling at their work. Although I'm still at the bottom in terms of sales performance, I make sure to help out anyone in a pinch from behind the scenes. No one suspects I'm working behind the scenes. However, there's one person who believes in what I do. That's Susan. She seems to understand that I'm moving in secret. I don't know how she noticed. I've been careful to leave no trace of my involvement. I thought maybe she was influenced by some corporate scheme, but her next words dispelled that suspicion.
I've always been good at spotting talented people since I was young.
Her boastful words sounded completely natural. Thinking she saw through me with such a unique ability made me feel foolish for doubting her. Maybe it's because she's such a fool herself that she's interesting. Then, Susan and I started dating and eventually got married. I used to think there weren't any decent guys younger than me, but being together like this, it's actually not so bad. I used to believe people couldn't be trusted, but maybe, deep down, I just wanted to believe in someone. Looking back, meeting Susan was the catalyst for me to change. I had avoided relationships with people and feared being in the spotlight. Susan, who taught me to trust again, is now my precious family. Now, I'm starting to think about building a happy home with the important people in my life.